Hello and welcome back to Let's Be Nerds. I'm your host, Stephen J, and today I am joined by three of the best guest hosts around, Lizett, Gordon, and Meechy. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Steve. How are you?
Fantastic.
I'm
Lizett,
I'm doing good too. Just trying to stay awake, but all is good.
these late night recordings, they'll do it to you.
Yeah.
Meechy, how are you?
Oh, not too bad, Steve. Just living.
First time back in a while. Glad to have you back on the panel.
Yeah.
Definitely, we're talking crap about you in the last
Yeah,
recording session.
don't listen to the last episode. You'll be fine.
It's not the last episode, but the last recording when it eventually goes up.
Whatever,
Yeah, just don't listen to it. Personalities is not important.
But the out is okay.
So we are in the middle of spooky season, my guys and gals. How's everybody's? We're midway through October at the time of recording. So how's everyone's spooky season going?
I mean, there's definitely been some interesting things like what we were all talking about earlier, but that's not necessarily podcast appropriate.
No.
That is true.
I mean, being food service and retail workers, we're on the front lines of some of the spooky bullshit.
Yeah.
So we kind of moved some episodes around to include the last episode one of the episodes we released was the Ghost Stories episode, and we kind of got an idea to make some creepy content for the month of October. So this episode is part of that. And I guess you could say this is our first. So we've done multiple multi-topics. I guess this is our first spooky multi-topic, right? Is that now?
That's exactly what I have it named in my draft right now.
Okay.
I was gonna say, is that gonna be like maybe an annual thing? I'm here for it.
I like it.
So essentially today we've all brought something to the table that's of a spooky nature, and of course you guys know me. Mine's kind of I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'll own it. Mine's like spooky conspiracy again. So you're getting like multiple themes with mine. Demetrius, you really haven't. We were lucky enough for you to grace us with your presence. So you're kind of just here in a position to react to the creepiness, and that's okay. I want to hear your take on, the things that we're presenting.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
He just doesn't care. As long as he can keep playing his video games while we talk, that's all he cares about.
And get an episode credit and get me and you off of his back. That's all he cares about.
Wait, whoa. I never said that.
That's kind of what it is, bud.
You didn't have to say it, though.
What? Oh, sorry. I mean, this is true.
It is good to have you back, Meechy. I have missed you.
Yeah. We all miss Meechy. All right. So without further ado, let's dive into this spooky multi-topic. Lizett, I want to hear what you have because your idea came from an original idea we had that we couldn't quite gel with, but you, like Gordon and I, essentially couldn't come up with something related to this, but you have one that I think is going to be pretty interesting. So lay it on us.
All right. So the original episode topic that we were going to do before this turned into multi-topic, spooky multi-topic, was we were each supposed to find a creepypasta that we liked and we were going to tell them to each other. So I had managed to find one. You guys were struggling with it, which I totally understand because I was struggling with it too until I came across this one, which had actually been told to me. Well, let me see if I can get my time frames right. Probably like 6 or 7 years ago, if not a little bit longer than that. So somewhere in that vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was originally told to me, I didn't realize it was a creepypasta. The way that the person told it to me, like I knew that it wasn't entirely true, but the way they framed it, I thought that parts of it had actually happened. Now, this is partially because I will admit it, I'm a gullible person. I'm extremely trusting. So anyway, part of why this story resonated with me was because I'll set the scene for you guys a little bit before I tell you the actual story. We were having like a camp out style thing at my grandmother's house. We had some of our parents had set up 2 campers, and we had girls in one, boys in the other, and it was cousins and a couple friends. And my grandparents were asleep in the house, so it was really just like the kids camping out in the yard. And before we actually went to sleep, like, we'd played manhunt out in the dark and just had a good time. We all kind of converged in one camper, and one of our friends was like, all right, I'm going to tell you guys spooky stories. So he was looking them up on his phone and reading them to us. And one of the other people who was there was actually Drew. So our friend who was reading the story, his name was Johnny. So Johnny was reading, Drew was doing sound effects. And at one point in this story, you know, I'll start telling you the story, and then when I get to that part, I'll explain what he did. So we had banished the 2 youngest cousins off to the other camper because we knew that they would get scared and have nightmares, and we'd get in trouble with the parents if they listened to these stories. So we're like, Jake and Jared, go sleep in the other camper. You're not allowed to listen to stories with us. So Johnny pulled up this story, and it was said, I'm not going to say the title of it, but I'll give you guys the rundown of the summary of the story. The person who was narrating it was claiming to have been an intern for Nickelodeon Studios when they were working on one of the seasons of SpongeBob. And they were talking about how, as an intern, they got to view some of the episodes before they actually aired and give feedback and whatnot. And this one day, they all sat down to watch this one episode, and it was focused around Squidward. And just from the moment that it started, something just kind of felt off, but everybody was really tired. Everybody had been working real hard, so they didn't think much of it. The episode started with Squidward playing his clarinet or something, just kind of like normal SpongeBob stuff. And then he started acting kind of weird. Like, he was acting really sad. He was crying a lot through the episode. At one point, it cuts to him having a concert, playing his clarinet up on stage, and the audience just starts booing him and being really nasty. And they talk about how when the camera, or like when it cut to showing the audience, the animation style was off. They're like, you know, they noticed that all of the characters had hyper realistic animated eyes, and just stuff was just really, really weird. But everybody was just thinking maybe they're just doing something different, a weird tone for this episode. We don't really know where they're going with it, so they stuck it out. And every so often they would also notice like there would be a flash, like there was a frame inserted into the animation that didn't match with everything. So they would always pause it, and like they would pause it and back up to that frame and look at it, and they realized that they were seeing murder scenes of children, like graphic murder scenes of children that were inserted into the animation. And the episode just progressed to the point where I didn't finish rereading it the other day to refresh my memory, but like just some super creepy stuff happened. If anybody's interested in reading it, if you go on Creepypasta and just search Squidward, you should get the rest of the title. I was telling the guys earlier, it contains one of the forbidden words for our podcast, so that's why I'm not telling you the title. But anyway, the part of it that kind of just stuck with me and why I remember this story, because our friend read us several stories that night. This is the only one I actually remember, is because we managed to accidentally still scare the shit out of the 2 younger cousins because of Drew's sound effects. So there was one point in the story, I don't remember where it was, but it talked about like a random scream in the sound effects, and he was standing over Johnny's shoulder reading, so he knew what was coming, so he could make his sound effects fall in line as Johnny was reading it. He actually screamed like at the top of his lungs, just shrieked. I think I jumped and fell off the bed. did some, like all of us just like jumped and kind of like screamed a little bit. And of course the two younger ones in the camper, not very far away from the one we were in, like it was only about 20 feet away, hear him scream, but they couldn't hear anything else. So they're like curled up in their beds wondering what is happening. And I think we still got in trouble because I don't think they slept that night. So that is my story. So yeah, what do you guys think?
Well, go ahead, Meech.
What episode of SpongeBob was that?
So it's not actually an
All of them.
episode. It's not actually an episode of SpongeBob. It was basically what it was. Someone made up a story to be kind of creepy. The ending of it, what they said that they found was that someone had hacked into their servers or done something, replaced the actual episode, and basically it was like a serial killer had hacked in
Oh, that's fine.
and replaced, and they, like in the middle of the episode, had inserted those pictures of their victims, which were all children, and at one point they put several frames in a row, and as you flipped through them, it was them actually like in the process of their bad deeds. So yeah.
Like when you slowed it down and went frame by frame, you could actually see like
Yes.
real murders
Yes.
or unalives.
Yes.
Ironically enough, I've heard of this. I think that Shane Dawson, I know we don't speak of him because he's like a racist and he's terrible, and I get that. But like, I'm pretty sure he covered this in one of his like conspiracy. I was gonna say stupid conspiracy videos, but one of his attempts at being a conspiracy theorist, I believe he talked about like dark undertones in animations aimed at children, and I believe he referenced this as if it were true and it actually happened. But lo and behold, it was just a creepypasta.
Yeah, and I mean, it's written very well. Like it's written in such a way that as you're reading it, you really do feel like you're watching this episode with them and getting there's like the same reactions that their so-called like studio audience was getting, which is part of why when our friend was reading it to us, like I said, I didn't realize, I don't think at the time I even knew what creepypasta was. But at the time I was like, I thought it was an actual story. And mind you, if any of you go out and do decide to read this, when you hit like the end of it, when it does get very dark, that was around the time when Drew, out of respect for the seriousness of the story, stopped doing his sound effects because he's like, he felt like it would have been a little bit too much. But yeah, no, the way it was presented to me, the way it was told to me, it took me a little while to realize that it wasn't, at the very least, based on something that had actually happened. So if you like some of those dark and more twisted kind of stories, like I said, it's not a bad one. It's pretty well written. It's not very long.
And I want to just circle back real quick, and I probably should have done this in the beginning, but for any of our listeners that are unfamiliar with what a creepypasta is, I'm going to read you the Wikipedia definition so you can kind of get a frame of reference as to what we're talking about. Creepypastas are a horror-related legend that has essentially been shared around the internet, quote unquote, maybe gone viral, gotten lots of traction, or sometimes they don't. But creepypastas are a catch-all term for any horror content posted on the internet. The internet entries that make up Creepypasta's website are often brief, user-generated paranormal stories intended to scare the readers. So we are talking about fiction, but when we're in the month of October, what better time to read creepypastas? You know what I mean? It kind of goes with the whole theme of the season.
And I can I can also tell you guys the title of another really popular, really famous creepypasta. And I'm not going to tell you any summaries of it, but it was another one that I considered talking about. It's Ben Drowned. Have you guys heard of that one?
It sounds so familiar.
So
I don't think I have.
the artwork that they tend to put up with it tends to be a modified image of Link from Ocarina of Time.
No shit.
And I don't remember the details of the story, but that is another one that I've read a lot, and that is another that is one that definitely like gives me the heebie-jeebies. So
Okay.
if that is your thing, there are definitely some good stories on there. It is not my preference because I have a tendency to, when I start reading stories like that, feel like I've got something watching me out of the corner of my eye, and I don't like it. Don't like it at all.
I'm here for it.
I mean, obviously, I like it enough to keep doing it, but
So, Gordon, what's your thoughts on the creepypasta?
I find it interesting. I definitely sounds very familiar, as if I've heard it, and I hate to say I probably heard it from Shane Dawson. Which
moving on.
No,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I know. My thing is like,
No,
that's a
it's
whole.
not.
That we
It's a
have
whole
to.
other. It's a whole other episode.
I know, because like some of the stuff he did was so good, and then some of it was so horrible. But yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Then he did that to his cat.
Wait, you want me to read the tweet? Because I have it saved in my phone's under favorites.
No.
Yes, I do. I really
Go
do want to
on.
hear it.
You have to now.
No, I don't think I have enough censor beeps for that tweet.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Anyway, so moving on, if we're all ready, I'll read my spooky quote-unquote conspiracy theory. Okay. So, who out of this group has been to, like, family vacations?
Yes.
Were national parks ever a part of that itinerary? It's like, for me,
Yeah.
Gettysburg. We went to Gettysburg multiple times.
Yeah, I've been to Red River Gorge out in Kentucky. I've been
Ooh.
to. It's really pretty. I highly recommend it.
Always wanted to go.
Unless you're about to tell me there's a serial killer out there, then I don't recommend it.
We'll get to that.
I've been to a couple. I've been to a few over in Puerto Rico as well.
Okay.
So yeah, it's always something that my family likes to hit up whenever we go somewhere.
Gordon, yeah, I know you're from Maine.
I am from Maine, and no,
Oh, because that would require direct contact with sunlight.
exactly. I'm not a fan of that.
Oh, are you another vampire?
I'm actually I'm a gray, I think is the title I was given. But besides the point, that's a callback to our early episode.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's only episode, this should be 14. We'll see. I've only been to Gettysburg.
Oh my gosh!
We
I just got
had this.
roasted. I just got roasted for those of you listening, I just got roasted about how we get our episode numbers mixed up, and like you've seen in descriptions of them that like, oh, don't trust Stephen J because he gave you the wrong episode number, and we're like, okay, we're gonna make a pact to not do episode numbers anymore and just let the chips fall. And what's he do after roasting me? Uses an episode number.
Let's make an episode number.
Sorry, I have to. After what I just went through, I have to call him out.
Oh, yeah, I know. It makes sense.
All right,
I don't
Demetrius.
regret anything.
Demetrius, have you ever been to a national park? If so, which ones?
I don't think I've been to a national park. I've been to amusement parks, but not.
Not the same thing at all.
Well, you might as well consider it the same thing. It's a tourist
I've
attraction.
been to Disney World.
Don't use that voice on this podcast.
Oh.
What's wrong with you?
Does that count? It's a national park.
Okay, I'm just moving
You
on.
just keep going.
Okay, so I was hoping that one of you had potentially been to the Smoky Mountain National Park, because that is the highlight of this, but this is allegedly something that is occurring throughout all national parks in North America, specifically the continental US. Okay, so according to this is from strangeoutdoors.com. So take that for what it's worth. It's not necessary. When, when it's a website like that, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. According to the data from 2017, according to data from 2017, there were 3,453 reported search and rescue missions and 182 deaths in national parks within the United States. If
Oh,
parties are unable to be located, the missing the missing individual, there's no records that are required to be kept by the National Park Service. So let's say, heaven forbid, I were to go missing at Gettysburg on a ghost hunt, because God knows I love them. Whether I am actually murdered by a crazy person, or I have too many Chardonnays and stumble off into the wilderness and just go missing in general, they're not required, after a search and rescue mission is performed, they're not binded to keep a ledger of that. So that raises some eyebrows. Well, there's also this man, and I'm going to butcher the spelling of his last name. His name is David. It's Paulides. Paulides. I needed to look up watch an interview of him and have somebody pronounce it, and I did not did not have the time. I apologize. But Pauliades. So he was an avid Bigfoot researcher. He actually founded the North American Bigfoot Search. I guess that would be an organization. So he came from that world, and now he's the author of these books and two documentaries that I believe he directed and produced. I don't know about directed, called The Missing 411. And what he does is now he's moved on from Bigfoot in a sense, where he's now documenting people that go missing in these national parks. And what's funny is we don't hear a lot about this. Everybody right now is probably inundated with the case in, God rest her soul, Gabby Petito's case. They were in a van, and whatever happened, but they were traveling through national parks. And so now I think that this is a good time to bring up the fact that annually so many people go missing in national parks, and there's no record of it. Well, when you really boil this theory down, I believe that our friend Dave that wrote those books, I think he maybe leans to the side that Bigfoot's out there doing this. I don't know if that's true or not, but based on his history, I don't know if he's trying to connect and build a bridge to that. But upon further research, what I've discovered is there's a lot of people that believe in our national park system we have what's considered feral people. And if you're unfamiliar with that term, they're essentially the definition of it is uncivilized, untrained people that could potentially be cannibalistic. And you enter their territory, they're going to attack. And it's quite a scary theory, because you think about what we're exposed to on a daily basis. It's very modernized, very civilized. But to think of somebody that lives in the wilderness, and is reverted kind of to I guess what you could say, a primate state, where if you're in their territory, they're going to kill you. They're going to protect their environment, so to speak. The conspiracy in the creepy part is I guess, is this an actual problem? Because there are people on both sides of the coin that say, oh no, this is an urban legend. And then there's people that say that no, there's eyewitness accounts of feral people abducting others from camping trips. For example, one of the sources that I used when I was doing this research was a website called thesmokies.com. The reason I use them is because this does tend to be more prevalent in the Smoky Mountain range, which stretches from Tennessee to North Carolina. They have a documented and published piece detailing a boy named Dennis Martin, who at the time was 6 years old. This was back in 1969. They have a piece basically detailing how he was on a camping trip with his dad, his brothers, some family members, some friends, and they flat out say in the article that he was abducted by feral people and never seen again. And there's this TikToker. Her handle is Garcious. Garcius. Again, I'm terrible with pronunciations, but she's brought light to this. She made a very viral TikTok basically trying to raise awareness that there are feral people in parks abducting, killing, potentially eating people. And when she was pressed about this claim, because it went pretty viral, she said that she has spoken to, or I'm assuming has reference to, several hundred eyewitness accounts, and she's claimed that she's in the process of working on a documentary to expose this. Now, I was unable to validate those claims, but you know, she got a lot of criticism when she did this TikTok and it went viral, and this is her answers. So my thinking is the National Park Service not keeping a registry, this gentleman who was a big Bigfoot activist coming in and now doing this book series, and he's had 2 documentaries, I believe, all under the title Missing 411. It raises a lot of questions, and it's like, are we dealing with, is the media and like the people in charge trying to divert our attention and say, oh no, it's not actually real, it's an urban legend? Or is this actually something that could happen? It creeps me out. So conspiracy, but spooky as hell, because now I think I'm going to reconsider my family vacations.
Yeah, so this is, I'm actually really glad that you're talking about this, because this was going to be one of my topics on a conspiracy episode whenever we got around to doing another one, honestly. I haven't done too much research into this yet, but I have heard bits and pieces of it, and I 100% believe that this is a thing.
Sorry,
You're good. No, there is so much, especially in the national parks and just certain areas of the country, there is so much open land, or not necessarily open land, but undeveloped land, big stretches of like just forest or just wild area. It wouldn't be too crazy to think that, groups of people or individuals could hide out if they know that territory well enough. And the fact that the national parks are not required to keep a record of who goes missing in that particular park, I would assume that they would at least need a document with the names and like rough estimates of the last time people were seen. It's very questionable to me that they're not required to keep any kind of record.
So I actually was thinking about when Steve was telling us. My theory for that is perhaps they're not looking into this, they're not putting time into this because these people are sacrifices so that these cannibals don't try to go after bigger cities. And I say this because I could be wrong. I could be talking about the conspiracy that has been popping up on YouTube about the hundreds of thousands of miles of cave systems that are scattered throughout the United States that people believe are home to a large just civilization of cannibals,
Hmm.
is that I'm 90. It's like maybe 40% sure, I should say, that not too long ago I heard news of a cannibal group getting found and finally being brought to justice, however that was. I can't find any news on it, so I might have just been hearing about this TikTok conspiracy, which is not, or it didn't originate on TikTok, I don't believe, because this theory of people living in the caves in, or just secret societies living in the caves throughout the Americas has been around for a decent bit of time, and I fully believe that to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So,
The bottom line
believe
is
it.
it's weird,
It is weird.
and I don't believe in coincidence.
Yeah, there's too many things that line up in weird ways. Um, it also kind of goes with, I don't want to speak too much about this because I haven't done the research that I wanted to on it. One of the conspiracy theories that Drew had told me about, um, I'm just going to touch on this briefly because, like I said, I don't remember the specifics at the moment, was something about, if I'm not mistaken, um, a Native American belief with the Wendigo
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
idea. And again, I could be completely off, and if I am, someone please leave us a comment or message or something, and give me more information on this. But one of the ideas was that, I don't know if this is like a more modern belief, that to become a Wendigo, because there are some, I think he was telling me there are some people who try to purposely become Wendigos. You were required to actually perform an act of cannibalism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something about it was like the act of actually consuming another human being breaks something in your mind. Again, like I'm just kind of grasping at what few details I remember, but it's another kind of layer to that fits in with these stories that everybody is researching at the moment.
I know I've read a little bit about the whole Wendigo folklore, quote unquote, and it's essentially like the act of cannibalism, just the act of murder in general, is like what invokes that spirit or that entity to
Hmm.
become a part of that. Um, that's interesting you bring that up because, like, in my little list of notes here, I never even considered that to be part of it. But at this
It's
point, we're questioning everything here, you know.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Whenever I hear those stories now, after, like I said, after Drew explained like that part of that other conspiracy theory to me, I always connect those now,
Mhm.
because just thinking about like all of the native tribes who were originally here in this country, if there were even like a feral group of people that have been here for like long periods of time, those native tribes would have known about them.
Mhm.
So it's like I do feel like in all of the different I don't want to use the word mythology, but that's the only one I can think of at the moment. But all of the different myths and folklore and stories of all the different people across the world, there are, even if it's some sort of crazy story, there are bits of truth in everything.
I agree.
Some stories have more than others, so it's like that's another reason why I kind of have a tendency to connect those two theories together. I feel like there is something there.
And if I can take it a little step further, this is something that I want to try to highlight on my YouTube channel, but and I'm not trying to minimize this by saying that it is a conspiracy theory, but when you talk about things like the Wendigo, we don't get the media coverage and the media attention that we should on the subject of Indigenous women that go missing annually in our country.
Yeah.
In 2019, according to secondwavemedia.com, in 2019, more than 5,590 Native American women were reported missing. Murder is the third leading cause of death for them. That raises more questions than answers. If you understand my train of thought, it's murder should not that they should be murdered, but you would think that, okay, crime assumed or crime, they were clearly murdered. No, that's only the third leading cause. So that means that the rest are just like the top two, there's no real answer for, or like, is it unalived? They're not giving us the full data.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, goes back to the parks not keeping, like, why are Native American women going missing? Why does it have ties to different things? And why are the national parks not keeping a record of this? Too many questions and there are answers.
Yeah. And there's questions that I think a lot of people don't even realize those questions need to be asked. Because, like you said, the media has a really good way of directing our attention elsewhere. One of the shows that I just finished watching made a little bit of fun, poked a little bit of fun about this. They called in one it they called this missing white woman syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were talking about it's a show about stalkers and murderers and whatnot. Nobody cared when one of the other characters had gone missing, but when the character who went missing was a white woman, all of a sudden all of the media covered it. All of the neighbors were wondering what happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was anyone of color, if it was anyone outside of specific groups,
Mm-hmm.
they got maybe a little bit of coverage and then never looked at again. And that is an issue because it's like, how many cases, how many people's stories are going untold
Mm-hmm.
because the media is choosing not to cover them for whatever reason.
Ratings.
Yes.
Yep. No, I agree. And I think that there's something bigger here, and it creeps me out. And I guess, yes, maybe I did turn this into a conspiracy theory, but the simple fact of anybody being able to go to a national park and be potentially abducted, murdered, cannibalized, whatever the case may be, is horrifying. And it needs to have an answer. And if it's happening specifically more to Indigenous people or to whatever the case may be, I personally don't care who you are. This needs to be front and center. It just seems like they're burying the lead. They're not talking about, they're not addressing it, and there's a reason why. And maybe, Gordon, it goes back to what you said. I don't know the answer here, but it's creepy, and we need to, like, maybe this is another episode. Maybe we try to, like, do a deep dive and, like, figure out if there's a connection between the Indigenous women and the National Park Services or something. And I'm going to slowly morph this into my love of true crime, and this podcast is going to be a true crime podcast. I don't know, like, it's disturbing.
I would be very interested to see if we can't dig up some statistics, but it's going to be difficult since the parks are not required to keep those records of what the statistics are for the people who are going missing. Is it mostly women? Is it mostly men? Is it like you said? Is it a particular ethnic group? Is it more Indigenous people? Is it more something? Is there any kind of pattern to it?
And if we can't get that data, is the National Park Service withholding that data for that reason?
Yeah.
Anyway, we've rambled. Meechy, do you want to add anything to this before we cut to ad read?
When you guys were talking about like the whole cannibalism thing, It got me thinking. I remember reading something about it. I take it as a shock. I read something, but there was this explorer who found this island, and basically, like, there were people living on it and everything, but they were cut out from the actual world. And when the dude came and like wanted to research them, they killed him.
Mm-hmm.
I've
They
heard
shot-
about what you're talking about.
They actually killed him with arrows, I believe.
Yeah.
I do know what you're talking about.
Well,
I cannot remember the name of that.
I can't either, but there's actual video of the dude, like, not actual video of him getting shot, but actual video from the dude of the people, like, telling the helicopters and everything to go away because, like, they're separate from the outside world. And, like, when one dude went to try to find out what actually was going on there, they killed him, like, right off the bat.
I believe I found it. John Allen Cho paid a fisherman to ferry him to North Sentinel Island, home to a 30,000-year-old tribe known to aggressively repel outsiders. The fishermen in the dinghies tried to warn him it's a risky. They basically like killed him with arrows, and that's according to the Guardian. If we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
It looked like he was like a researcher and he was a cinematographer. Like I think he was trying to catch like videos, photos, and research them. And that they're an indigenous people, so I hate to use the term feral in regards to them, but in relation to modern society, they would probably fall under that term of feral in a sense. But they have a form. Like the people in the national parks that they're speculating have no form of like structure or society. They're basically just kind of on their own doing their own thing, whereas that's a group of indigenous people that like they just don't want to be disturbed. But it's scary. It's scary to think that there's people that, because when you think about it, it's people you see every day on the street. It's not people that have never seen another human in their life besides their tribe or the people that live in the same area of the woods. It's creepy to think outside of that.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, we are going to take a quick ad break and we are going to hear from Gordon, and he's going to bring it home for us with his segment, and we'll see what he has to offer.
I'm excited to share.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hey there, guys and gals. I hope you are enjoying this episode of the Speak Easily podcast. I know I had a lot of fun recording it. Speaking of, have you ever thought about making your own podcast? It's always been something I wanted to do, but I kept putting it off because I could never find the right platform to host it. That is, until I discovered Anchor. Anchor is an all-in-one recording, editing, and hosting app that makes the process simple. And the best part is it's totally free. And I mean genuinely free. And if you're someone like me who has a love-hate relationship with editing audio, let me tell you this. I was blown away by how user-friendly the in-app editing tool actually is. My favorite part, I must admit, is the distribution. Normally with new podcasts, you have to submit your show to various platforms individually, which can be time-consuming and very frustrating. But with Anchor, they do the legwork for you. They'll submit it to Spotify, Apple, Castbox, Google, and several others with just the click of a button. Plus, unlike other platforms, there is no minimum requirement for listeners, so you can monetize your podcast and start earning right away. So, download the free Anchor app available in the App Store or on the Google Play Store, or do what I did and head over to anchor.fm to get started today. Thank you, Anchor, for sponsoring this podcast. I guess this means the next round's on you. I'll drink to that.
All right, we're back. All right, Gordon, we want to hear what you have to say because we kind of talked about this a little bit before the episode, like what we were going to be presenting. And Lizett, you and I have no idea what he's talking about, right?
Yeah, I have no clue.
So I'm excited.
I'm really excited to share this because I'm surprised you guys don't know what it is. I am going to be talking about the SCP Foundation, which, in its own right, is exactly like creepypastas, just not as spooky. They're a bit more. hmm, They're a bit more theoretical, hypothetical. I don't know the proper word to use to actively describe, but I think you guys will get a better idea. Might be able to help me with that in a little bit when I explain a little bit of what the SCP Foundation is and what it does.
Okay.
So, SCP stands for Special Containment Procedures, or Secure, Contain, Protect, which is the Foundation's motto. It's a large, large organization specializing in the containment of anomalous creatures or objects to protect mankind and to study them or to create scientific breakthroughs with them or use them to exploit them. They pretty much capture these mythical creatures that are straight out of a fairy tale and either contain them because they're too dangerous, study them if they're not that dangerous, or if they're safe to use, they'll use their powers and exploit it, like every good government foundation would do. Um, the SCP has different classes for these creatures. There's a lot more than I remember, as it's been a while since I've looked into the lore of SCPs. But the main three that you guys really need to worry about are safe, um, elucid, and cater. Safe are just anomalies that are easily contained. You can walk up to them, hug them, touch them, be buddies with them. You will not have any harm done to you or anyone else. Elucid, that's where it takes a bit more to contain these said creatures. They might cause you bodily, physical, mental harm, much like a 9 to 5. Um, it just
That's
it doesn't fall really into the safe category. It's a bit more on the danger side. You want to watch your step. You need higher clearance to actively observe and interact with these. And then there's the cater, which are the anomalies that are exceedingly difficult to contain or reliable. So even if you can contain it, you could go back the next day and it could be gone because magic. We'll get into the why a little bit later when I start describing some of these SCPs. But these are the SCPs that will actively murder, harm, or do something to. It could be, they could topple the government kind of threats, or they could cause mass genocide, which those have their own special name. But those are the three that you really need to pay attention to. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yep.
wait. Are we? Oh wait. I have to get a little clarification here. And maybe are we
That's fair.
talking? Are you more on the creepypasta side of the fiction, or are you more on my side where it could be real?
This is. I'll go back and explain a little bit more on that then. Just these are stories that are completely made up by anyone and everyone. I could make one. You guys could go up and make
Oh,
one, but they all, and you really have to put it on yourself whether you want to believe the lore or not, because there's really no lore or anything, but they all co all the SCPs coincide with each other and cross different paths through different stories through hundreds of thousands of different authors. And most of the ones on the website that I'm using, the official website,
is it the wiki dot?
no. Yes.
Because when I Googled them and they had a Creative Commons license, I was like, okay, so this has to be mostly fiction. Like,
Yes, it is
okay,
mostly fiction.
okay, all right.
But there's still some really creepy ones in here that I don't remember their exact numbers, and my plan was to have you guys pick a number between 1 and 6,999, and we discuss that SCP.
Okay, I can do
So
that.
yes, Steve,
Mhm.
please pick a number between 1 and not 6,999.
69.
Okay.
Oh, this will be good.
I mean, you put the idea in my head with the 6,900.
Let me find it. Here we go. SCP-069, Second Chance. So this is object class safe. So it's easy to contain and it will not cause immediate harm.
Yeah, you just have to shower
Unless
beforehand.
Oh god.
exactly, and clean up after you're done. Um, so SCP, I guess I should. Item is SCP-069. Object class is safe and special containment procedures. 069 is currently impersonating former Foundation agent Redacted and is housed at Humanoid Containment Site 06-3 as SCP-069 is currently on a live watch. All
Okay.
requests it makes must be approved by no fewer than 2 level 3 personnel.
So it's
If
like an alien that has taken the shape of someone else.
I'm almost to that part.
Sorry.
If 069 attempts to breach containment, it must be subdued using non-lethal methods. If 069 dies, undercover agents are to be instructed to monitor reports of incidents in which individuals appear to have escaped certain death, and 069 is to be recontained as soon as possible.
Okay.
The description, unless you have words on what that was.
It's giving Mystique from X-Men vibes.
Yes, that
Okay.
seems to be the case. I haven't read this one yet, so I usually jump around the random ones because it's more fun to just get a broad spectrum. So the description of SCP-0-069 is a presumed humanoid entity of variable appearance and gender. Though an unknown ability, whenever 069 is left alone with a recently deceased human body, the body will disappear, and 069 will take on the appearance, mannerisms, and knowledge of the recently dead individual. Through extensive experimentation, it has been shown that 069 is completely indistinguishable from the individual it impersonates, matching the original individual's fingerprints, DNA, and data expunged with nearly perfect precision. 069 retains no knowledge of its abilities or former impersonations. 069 responds normally to injury or pain, but if killed, will rapidly decay into dust regardless of any preservation attempts. 069 will then reemerge at the site of the most recent human death. There is no known maximum range to this effect, and so far has been observed in jumps of up to 672 kilometers.
Wow. So like I could be 069 right now. Well, okay, wait. I have a hanger though because they said knowledge, they didn't say memories. So like I could be 069, and the only one that would know would probably be Lizett because you could recall memories and be like, remember? Oh,
When they say knowledge, they mean they gain everything that you
oh,
know.
but like,
So
so memories are included in that.
they are completely indistinguishable
Damn.
to anyone who is not actively looking for said SCP.
I was gonna say like Lizett, I
That's
could be like,
interesting.
you could be like, remember we got our shit rocked by that wave in Ocean City, and like I was hoping that 069 would remember that. You know?
Yeah.
Huh.
I
Okay.
like this. This is actually giving me this whole idea is giving me some vibes from a sci-fi show I used to watch, and I actually just Googled real quick to see when the SCP site went up, and it was actually right around, if the date I got was correct, was right around when this show would have been being put into production. So did any of you guys ever watch Warehouse 13 on the Sci-Fi Channel?
No.
Wait, is that the one with Sally Richardson Whitfield? Wait,
Um,
Warehouse 13. Because like, was she like was there like a Native American woman that was like a government agent?
it was government agents, but I don't remember a Native American woman.
You said Warehouse 13.
Yeah, hang on. I might be, if it was a side character or if I wasn't aware.
Okay, no, I'm thinking of a different show. I apologize. I have
Okay.
not seen Warehouse 13.
I think you guys would enjoy it. It's it's a little goofy. It's a little I don't want to say corny, but it was a Sci-Fi Channel original show, so take that as you will. It was fun at the time. I don't know how it's aged because it was a while ago. But yeah, it's just the whole idea of there being all the secret stuff that you have to kind of keep contained. It's very reminiscent of the premise of the show.
I'll have to give that a watch.
I'd like
Yeah.
that. I added it to my IMDb watch list. The show I was thinking of was Eureka.
Oh yes. That was another good one. If
Okay.
if you liked Eureka, you would like Warehouse 13.
Because the plot line, kind of like when you said that, I was like, wait, that sounds similar. So
They
maybe I'll
had
have to check.
crossover episodes.
No shit.
Yeah, they did crossovers. Claudia from Warehouse 13 went to Eureka for an episode, and I believe it was Fargo from Eureka went to Warehouse 13. They were running at the same time, so they did do crossover episodes.
That was like on Sci-Fi Channel. Was good.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The lady I mentioned, by the way, just a quick plug, was the lead voice actress in Disney's Gargoyles, the show that I have to bring up every podcast for you guys to watch. Anyway, Lizett, why don't you pick a number?
Let's do 3051.
3051.
Solid number.
SCP 3051. Interactive time loop. You picked a good one there.
Oh, okay.
So, this is a new format. Sorry, I haven't seen it. So, this is level 2 restricted. Containment class is safe. Distribution class is VLAM, which I didn't cover, and risk class is caution.
Sounds like me on a Friday night.
So the special containment procedures. As a fully functional Foundation site, SCP-3051 is capable of self-containment. 3051 has constantly manned roadblocks, watchtowers, and surveillance cameras, which remain, for the most part, active during Incident 3051-86. A lot of incidences. Outside
What
of
did you just say?
3000, that's a lot of incidences.
Incidents. Sorry, go
Yeah,
on.
same
Go
thing.
on.
Outside of SCP's 3051's area of effect, there is a network of motion-sensitive cameras intended to capture civilians attempting to enter site during 3051's deactivated period. A series of radios and television transmitters positioned outside 3051's area are set to constantly broadcast duplicate signals of those originally sent from 16/12/1980 to 22/12/1980 into SCP's 3051. At the beginning of each loop, Dr. Frost must manually connect the served telephone network to a computer, which will send an automatic error message when the phones at Site 86D are used. Yeah. A lot of big words here. I'm not used to that.
I'm proud of you for picking a topic that required you to read a lot, though.
Oh, thanks. So description. SCP-3051 is the ruins of Site 86D and the surrounding area in the 3-kilometer radius. Site 86D, bless you,
Sorry.
was a newly
Okay.
instituted residential site containing safe to elusive level temporal anomalies. It had a total staff count of 467, with 466 present at the time of the incident.
Huh.
Every 7th day, a localized temporal distortion takes place within SCP 3051. The distortion returns SCP 3051 to 6:12 p.m. Tuesday, 16/12/1980 in operational Site 86D, containing SCPs and staff will replace the ruins. This replacement also restores SCP 3051's surrounding terrain, forest, and wildlife to their state in 1980. Only objects which are present during the original incident will be replicated, leaving Dr. Richard Faust as the only staff member to not be recreated as an SCP 3051-1 instance. The distortion will terminate after 6 days and 12 hours. When incident 3051-86 concludes at 6:12 a.m. Sunday, 22/12/1980, and the area will be returned to its dilapidated state. This is followed by a 12-hour-long inactive period before the loop restarts.
Wow.
I'm gonna cut that there as
Yeah.
it's a much longer thing than just that.
I was gonna say, it sounds like there's a lot of lore there.
Oh, there is a good, probably another 5 or 10 minutes of reading with my current reading level.
Somebody needs to pick this up for a show, though. Like, I mean, I would watch this, I think.
Yeah.
This is my side hustle. I just haven't told you guys about it yet.
But like, I mean, imagine get somebody to like go in, like do it like half live action, half animation, and like, I don't know. I think this could be a really interesting show. Sci-Fi Network. I know you like have no money, but like maybe do this.
They
might
would.
get
I think that'd
viewers
be
again.
awesome.
They might. I want the glory days back, man.
You know what? Like, there were so many shows running for, like, they all overlap for, I think, like 2 or 3 years. They were all really good. And then they started ending. And then and then just the whole channel went downhill.
You know, I would love to speak to whoever was running the budget at that time, because I feel like what happened is they were like riding on like a wave of like advertising deals, and they just were like, well, we're just gonna. I don't think that's an appropriate term that I was just about to say. We're just going to throw all of our hats into the ring. That's a better way of saying that. All at once, and then they ended up with like everything ending at once because I think there was no money.
Well, I know one of the things that happened because one of the series that my mom and I were very big on following was their Stargate shows.
Mm-hmm.
So they did 3 different ones. There was Stargate SG-1, which is the one that it started off with. Then Stargate Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
So those 2 were really good. And then the third one was Stargate Universe. And what happened with those shows, I think might be what happened with the entire channel, and I could be wrong. I definitely think that what you're talking about was probably going on behind the scenes, but like actually writing wise and what they were putting on screen for Stargate, especially when they got to that third show, when they got to Universe, they were trying to make it more relatable to like what was currently in, or what was currently like hot topics, and they were trying to, rather than keep building on the fan base that they already had, they were trying to appeal to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, they lost the fan base they had, but they also did not appeal to everyone. And that's why Universe only ran for 2, maybe 3 seasons,
Mm-hmm.
where SG1 got 10, Atlantis got 5.
Yeah.
And it's like the idea of the show was good, but their execution of it was just not true to the heart of what they had originally been doing that people actually liked. And I feel like that's what happened with a lot of their shows, because like once Eureka and Warehouse 13 ran a little bit longer than the Stargate shows did, and then once those ended, there was maybe 1 or 2 other, Sanctuary, and there was at least 1 more we watched. Because there was a solid 2 or 3 years where whenever I would walk in the house, we had Sci-Fi Channel playing.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it just went to the point where my mom and I talked about it. We're like, we just have no interest in watching what they're putting out, because like the acting's not good, the story, the writing's not good, the cinematography is not the best either. Like just all the way around, it's like everything. It was never Oscar worthy to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
but it was still good.
Yeah, it was passable
Yeah.
because you knew what you were getting and you were supporting. Always felt like I was supporting like the underdog or whatever.
Yeah. And then they would end up with they had some very good actors who just didn't really do much else.
Mm-hmm.
Who, one of our favorites was Michael Shanks, who had a lot of really good variety in his acting when he was given the
Right script.
right script, and because there was one episode where I remember his character was basically like, I don't want to say possessed, but he had like 20 some different people downloaded into him, and he got to act out, I think, like 6 or 7 different ones. Each one was distinct from each other, and like it felt natural. It didn't feel like you were watching someone act.
Yeah.
So like they had good actors. So I don't know. We'll have to do another episode and kind of see if we can figure out what happened with all that.
Could we do maybe we should do it as a YouTube video, like the rise and fall of the Sci-Fi Channel.
Okay, you and I will start planning that, because I feel like we're
that.
Yes, because I feel like we're hijacking Gordon's topic, and I do apologize.
I apologize, Gordon.
I was about to ask you guys forget we're recording? Is this in the booster meeting?
No, leave this in. Like that's how it, creative processes work, how they work. You inspired the idea, honestly, Gordon.
Yeah.
Yay. Then I'll go over my last SCP. It's definitely not the last. I'll go over mine relatively fast. This is the version of the SCP that I like to believe is true.
Okay.
Granted, this is SCP-001.
Okay. Like the origin.
Yes, this is the first one discovered, essentially. And I'd like to believe this version of the one I found is Jonathan Bell's proposal. There are at least over 20 different ideas of SCP-001 and how it originated, but this is the one I like because it kind of sets up, for me, the rest of the SCPs, and just in my head it gives me more lore than if I were to just listen to the other one. So to begin, it's item number SCP-001, object class Cater. Special containment procedures. To date, no adequate containment procedure has been developed to deal with the possible posed threat by SCP-001. This is due in part to the controversial nature of the item and debates concerning the necessity of its containment. This controversy is reflected in the item's changing object class and the procedures utilized in its containment. The current administration, despite charges of paranoia, has classed the object as Cater, while requesting permission for a higher object class to be created and applied uniquely to this item, considering it to be the most dangerous of all known possible items. The reason for this classification and the changing attitudes toward 001 are dealt with in the descriptions and notes. At present, it is located in a code lock briefcase made of high tensile reinforced polymer. The room and briefcase are monitored at all times. The briefcase cannot be opened without all current O5 officers. The briefcase itself was stored into a small, fully lit, single room off-site building erected in Redacted. The description of this of SCP-001: it is a simple sheath of paper stapled together in the top left corner. The top sheet is a covering sheet reading simply confidential report on special items classified. The number of subsequent papers stapled to this covering sheet is undetermined. Or
Undetermined.
Just
yes, wrong. I was trying to say two words at the same time.
it
And
was
have
beautiful.
ranged
It was beautiful,
from
Gordon.
thank you. And the number of pages have ranged anywhere from 3 to 30. The report is unsigned and the origin is unknown.
Undetermined.
The first appearance of this report was on Redacted when it appeared on the desk of Redacted, deceased. The report at the time described the living room, SCP-002. Shortly after reading the report with incredulity, that's not how you pronounce that either, Redacted was contacted by phone regarding said item. The next time Redacted pursued 001, it described not the living room but the biological motherboard, SCP-003. Redacted immediately closed 001, thinking it was a different report, and searched for the original of 002. Not finding it, he opened up 001 again, and this time found the 12 rusty keys and doors, SCP-004, described instead. What SCP-001 is, and why I accept it as this version being the original, is that it describes in incredible detail what all the other SCPs are and what class they would be, what and how big of a threat they'll be, and give the SCP Foundation a way to track all the other SCPs. And the more they look at this paper, the more SCPs come viable or become active, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of creates in itself more SCPs
in the universe.
Exactly.
It's like kind of the origin.
Yeah, it's like the origin of all SCPs, and that's why I like to accept it as the first SCP, at least this version of the first SCP. Where there are multiple versions, and maybe we can do another episode just going over more of these.
Mm.
But I think those three are good to get anyone who hasn't looked into this yet interested in this topic.
It piqued my interest because I think that there's definitely a story here, and I'm shocked that we haven't heard about it. I feel like this is something that should have gotten picked up and been a movie or a series of movies or a TV show or something.
I'm sorry. I was gonna share some names of SCPs in the 3000s, and one of them is, "Hi, I'm your Snapple Ganiker." Okay. I don't even know how to say this word. I think it's Snapple Ganger.
Okay. Well,
Perpetual motion run amok. This Q equal sign is number 3022. Hooked on a feeling is 3022. The Doc's ghost is 3024. Take on me is 3028. Sketchy clown hunter extraordinaire. I said that wrong too.
extraordinaire.
Thank you. It's 3036. I'm just gonna stop talking because I can't say any of these words right.
I think that
I
by and
think-
large, we get the gist of what you're presenting,
Yeah.
and it's not as popular as Creepypasta, I'm assuming. So I think it would be good for the listener to go and check that out.
Yeah, because
Spooky season, baby. Go get creeped out.
and it's definitely something different. Like the creepypastas all kind of have the same
Undertones
tone.
and
Yeah, like the same
yeah.
tone to them. But like this is something a little bit more sci-fi to
and
me.
it kind of feels like it has its own universe built in,
Yeah.
which is like unique. Creepypasta doesn't really have that.
No. So like I'm intrigued. I will be looking more into these just for my own entertainment.
I'm gonna probably do like the random number thing just on my
Yeah.
own accord and just be like, what stupid number can I come up with something that's like interesting?
Yeah.
Random number generator 1 through 6,999.
Yeah. Demetrius, are you still awake? Are you still with us?
Yeah.
Granted, Lizett is a woman of color, but was this a lot of white people shit or like where are you at on your level of putting up with us tonight?
Well, talking about SCP, I didn't know what it was until it hit me. And I'm kind of upset and ticked that he kind of skipped over me for it, but
Do you want to do a number?
173.
Oh, he had it ready.
173.
Oh, I'm sorry, Meechy.
We
I
weren't
really thought
actively
you.
participating.
I thought you were over it. I'm sorry.
So SCP-173, the sculptor, the original. Oh, of course he picks this one.
Okay, like 3 sentences or less.
Read it.
Sorry, read it.
This is
And now I gotta pull it up so I can be reading it while Gordon's taking his time deciding.
Can you drop me a link?
SCP.
I'm too lazy.
1000.
you.
Sorry, SCP-173. Elusive class. Stop. I'm upset that I didn't think of this for myself too, because this is definitely the one people know about. Item SCP-173 is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must enter 173's container, no fewer than 3 may enter at a time, and the door is to be relocked behind them. At all times, 2 persons must maintain direct eye contact with 173 until all personnel have vacated and relocked the container. Description: moved to Site 19 in 1993. Origin is as of yet unknown. It is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon band spray paint. SCP, it's probably not how you say that at all, but SCP-173 is animate and extremely hostile. The object cannot move while within direct line of sight. Line of sight must not be broken at any time with 173. Personnel assigned to enter container are instructed to alert one another before blinking. Object is reported to attack by snapping the neck at the base of the skull or strangulation. In the event of an attack, personnel are to observe Class 4 hazardous object containment procedure. Personnel report sounds of scraping stone originating from within the container when no one is present inside. This is considered normal, and any change in this behavior should be reported to the acting HMCL supervisor on duty. The reddish-brown substance on the floor is a combination of feces and blood, origin of these materials is unknown. The enclosure must be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis.
Okay, so for the audience listening, I want you to Google, like pause this, go back, Google SCP-173, because this is what's happening in our chat for like production of this show.
I have another one for you. Hang on. It
I
gets
just want you to
worse.
Google
This is when people think of SCPs, this is who they should think of, because this is like the most popular one of them all.
And the thing is this image is so cursed. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
it
That's
gets
an overused term. Oh God. Please,
So-
audio listeners, Google it. I mean, I'm sorry to put that on you, but like Google it because it's decrepit.
So
Oh,
there's some more information here. It's called the creator information.
oh God.
I'm scared.
Read it.
Sculpture and it's okay. So the image used in SCP-173 article is an art piece, Untitled 2004. The photograph was taken by. I am so sorry to anyone who is
Izumi
a resident
Kato.
in is. I was gonna say is a resident in that side of the world. I'm gonna butcher these names, but Azumi Kato. The photograph was taken by
Kazuki Yamamoto.
Yamamoto. Thank you, Steve. All rights reserved by the artist. Note of caution: SCP-173 is a secondary use of the image. Yada yada yada. Do not contact or negotiate with.
Izuki Koto.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Izumi Koto.
Izumi Kato about anything related to SCP-173. Do not negotiate. Do not ask the SCP Wiki to handle. This one might be real, guys. This might be what's taking all those people from
Why are
the
there so
national
many?
parks.
Why are there so many disclosures?
Because this isn't like a part of the SCP for viewers listening. This is genuine information about someone who genuinely made this art. So
this must have gotten like his art must have gotten attached to like another project or like YouTube. There's like a video on YouTube or something because he sent them notices to get this put in there.
Oh, so looking at the picture up on top of the SCP Wiki site, it is a real photograph of the creature you see in the first picture there, Steve. It's a sculpture inside a room. I'm assuming that. Don't let me butcher this name. Izumi probably made said.
And he probably made the
Sculpture.
structure, and Kazuki photographed it. That's what you're saying. And it probably got spread around, and they're trying to like make sure they don't get like.
This is widely accepted. Now that you know what this is from, you'll probably never see it again now. But I see this creature all over the place in memes and other scary stories. So this could be the reason why he doesn't want any negotiation or anything, because it obviously has to be a already free to use image. Or
For audio listeners that Google SCP-173, 14th image down on Google image results. What the hell is even going on?
Which one are you
It's
looking
the one
at?
with his little butt out and the stars around it. What the hell is this?
Scroll down further and you'll see somebody like hugging the actual statue from the back. Just to like scroll down a couple more rows. I can drop it in chat if you want. But...
Like hugging it from the back? I don't even. Oh God.
Do you see it?
Oh. I think, and it's not a person. It's like a messed up other monster, right?
No.
No. Oh, right below that. No, it's it.
Oh,
Maybe.
I see it.
Wait, is that him? Maybe.
I don't know.
Let me like go into it.
Know what you mean? Yeah.
It doesn't say. It's just on a
Are we
meme.
gonna get a strike for talking about this?
I don't think
We
so.
can't. We just can't show any of the artwork in the video, right?
Yeah.
I'm leaving this in because like people have to know that this is how this works. So we just can't put any of the artwork in the video.
The artwork goes back to knowyourmeme.com, and it's just, I'm assuming it's probably either the creator of the artwork or someone or a person who took the picture of the original one.
Okay.
I had to guess, but I cannot see for sure.
Yeah, because there's not really any information about it.
Well,
Yeah, it's just
Izumi, we respect your art, and I want to just go on record saying that now. We respect your art, and we think you're an innovator.
yes.
And-
Thank you for giving us this creature that I've never actually paid attention to where it originated from until I read SCPs.
And Kazuki, we respect your cinematography and photography. Said that word really weird.
I think I'm still waiting for the weird words.
I just
You're
don't
good.
want a lawsuit. We love you guys, and we stand you on this podcast. So come on, and we can have an interview because we love you.
I'm pretty sure it even says. I think that's one of the do not contact.
Well, no, they said they could come on. Like they have to contact us
Ah.
if they ever want to do an interview in the States. Gordon, just let me handle this. Anyway, so Meechy, way to like really upend the podcast. Like, look at you. You are a part of it, and then you just kind of throw the whole thing into a tailspin at the end. You're like that TikTok trend. Am I the drama? Like maybe you are the drama. Oh.
Did he fall asleep?
It's a good thing. It's like you gave us like another like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no, like we've missed having you on. It's good to have your little entertainer self on with us since we did talk about.
You're kind of like the Loki of this podcast.
He called me little.
What?
You called little.
You are little.
Wait, who called you little?
Oh, I said you're like the little entertainer. Okay, yeah.
Meechy, you're 6'3".
I was gonna say yes. You are the tallest one of all of us. I apologize.
God forbid, diva. He appears on 2 episodes and he has like a diva attitude. I can't.
So look, I'm vertically challenged. I have a tendency to try and refer to everybody else as little to make myself feel better. Okay.
Amen. Amen. I'm like relatively tall, and the fact that you're taller than me, I will also refer to you as little to try to make myself feel better because it's a coping mechanism.
Yep.
You have to speak now because this is what they call dead air, and this is like your one job. You know, at the end of the show, you have to kind of like, be like, thanks for having me on, guy. Like, you know, that whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate it.
Wow. Okay.
Well, we're leaving all of this in. Thank you to everyone for listening to Demetrius's like first, second. This is probably his 3rd appearance.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Third and last. Maybe we'll see you at the New Year's Eve special. No, I'm just kidding. Does this stress you out, honestly? Like, this is like the time for you to be real, and it's going to be published. We're breaking the 4th wall, but does it stress you out being on here?
No, not really.
Well, why don't you want to contribute?
Because sometimes the topics you guys talk about no.
It's weird for you.
Yeah, because I don't like with the whole Harry Potter and everything. And
Meechy, we haven't even recorded the Harry Potter one, bud.
Either way, like there's Harry Potter, there's Star Wars, there's all that. Star Wars, Star Trek, same thing. Oh well.
Okay, no. I'm in the Discord actively.
No. Okay, all right. Here's my thing, though. If I make this invitation to you, I don't feel like you will actually follow through with it. I was going to say, why don't we do an episode? And it wouldn't be like, I wouldn't put the whole pressure on you as kicking it off, but why don't we do an episode that you and I work together, where we have Gordon, Lizett, maybe Bob, and you haven't been on when they've been on, so maybe that'd be uncomfortable because you don't really know them, but they're good friends of mine. Why don't you and I work on an episode where it's from start to finish, it's all things that you want to talk about.
Well, I
And
don't even
it's
know what to talk about. I got short-term memory loss.
You can't keep using that as an excuse,
yeah,
Meechy.
yeah,
We're gonna start an intervention here soon.
I know. We're gonna have to start giving you flashcards, bud.
I wouldn't even remember where the flashcards were.
Well,
Maybe we should go back to scripting these so maybe he can pay attention.
I
I'm
mean,
sick.
maybe that is what we should do. Maybe we could like provide you with a scripted segment or something that you could be a part of it, where you, I don't know, didn't have to be a part of the discourse. Like you could maybe, like when you were on, you like did your like good news at the end of the segment. Maybe you could do a segment. Wow, that was so bad English. Such bad English. It was even worse. Such bad English. Maybe you could do a segment that's pre-recorded and added in where it's like, Demetrius's like good news for the week or something like that, where it's pre-recorded, less stress, and maybe not, the stuff that you're not interested in.
Yeah, it's a
Because I
thought.
mean, even when we did the multi-topic and you did your food from around the states and everything, I felt like that was really cool. Like we all enjoyed that.
Hmm. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think you got to show off your personality. And that's the whole thing here, Demetrius, is like you have such a wonderful personality when we're in person. And like as this podcast grows, I want you to be a part of it. Knock on wood, say our prayers that it gets successful. I want you to be a part of this because you were kind of on the ground floor. You were there the first night the idea came up. So, however, I would like to cater that to you a little bit, and like maybe it's a pre-recorded segment. Like after commercial breaks, we could have like a word from Demetrius or something.
I mean, it's possible.
Well, we'll work on that and we'll see if we can come up with something.
Yeah, because my stress of breaking the fourth wall this much is already eating me alive. So,
So we'll call it here for the night because I think we all need sleep too.
I agree, and I think that this was good though because it shows that we're real, and it's like the behind the scenes of like making a podcast work among friends. I like that. I think it's very natural to have that. But yeah, we all need sleep, and we're recording a few episodes this week that I'm really excited about. So, with that being said, I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank Gordon. I want to thank Lizett. I want to thank Meechy. You guys are wonderful co-hosts. I want to thank Anchor for sponsoring this podcast because without you, this would not be possible. Um, if you enjoyed what you saw today, listened to today, please leave a review, rate, give a 5-star rating, give us a review. That helps tremendously in the podcast analytics world. If you're more of a YouTube person, please look up our channel, subscribe. That always helps. Click the bell for notifications for new episodes.
Check out our beacon in the description.
We do have a new link to try to make it easier for everyone to access different things. We're now with Beacon, so you can see all of our social media stuff. We appreciate it. We are trying to build a community. We want to create an environment where talking about this stuff is open for everybody. And from the bottom of our hearts, we can't thank you enough for listening. And hopefully we'll see you maybe on the Discord server where we play trivia and have good banter. And you can't go wrong with that. Everyone needs more friends. And in life, we like to be nerdy, and we hope you want to be nerdy with us. And we will see you in the next episode. Let's Be Nerds is hosted and executive produced by Gordon Bryant and me, Stephen J. McLean. Today's co-host was Lizett Ayala. You can find her on Instagram at xshadowsongx. Let's Be Nerds is a production of Speakeasily Productions. Our social media manager is Kylie Gregg. Our theme song was composed by Robert Van Jacobs. You can follow him on Instagram
at Bobby_Specter. To keep up with the latest about the show, follow us on Twitter at Let's the Letter B Nerds, or join our Discord server, which will be linked in the description box below. Thank you to Anchor for sponsoring our show, and thank you for listening.